financial problems, elder law, criminal law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by THAV GROSS. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Today's topic is breaking news. The CDC's rent moratorium was struck down by the Supreme Court last night, just before we filmed the show, and now it's a question of where do we go from here? Brian Small, good morning.
Good morning, Ken. There's an awful lot on our plate today.
Jeffrey Linder.
Good morning, Ken. Big dose of the reality portion of our show today.
Pat Samasco.
Hi, how are you guys?
All right, so let's put the framework in. COVID's been going on forever. February of 2020. There's been a rental moratorium in effect.
Eviction.
On eviction continuously for as long as we can remember at this point. And it's been a subject of great debate because there are two sides to the equation. There's the tenant and there's the landlord.
And the mortgage company.
And
too.
the mortgage company. In fact, and Pat, we've talked about it on the show before. Pat, you've raised the issue of the landlord frequently because a lot of focus is on the tenants because the tenant who is suffering from COVID and has incurred a income decline and has been unable to pay the rent, there's sympathy for that situation of we don't want to put that person on the street in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, remember what the whole moratorium was designed around. It was designed around keeping large masses of people out of homeless shelters. If they were evicted, they would be in homeless shelters potentially, spreading the
disease.
virus.
Oh.
And so by keeping people in their homes, the transmission of the virus was supposed to be kept down.
So was that really why they did the moratorium, or was that the justification for doing the moratorium?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay. So, all right, now on the flip side is you've got the landlord who could be a big corporation owning big mega apartment buildings, because those are the landlords, but there's also Jack and Jill and Fred and Rita who have bought 4 rental properties. They have mortgages on all 4 of the properties. They're renting them out as part of their livelihood with the goal of building their own retirement and wealth by renting them out for rent that basically covers the mortgage payment, the taxes and insurance, and some repair and maintenance work. They're not making big cash flow off of them, but they're paying down the mortgage with the goal that in 20 years they have built up big equity in these homes and they're now retirement vehicles. That person is in a situation where in the last 19 months they've been in default on their mortgage with their lender, or they've exhausted all of their savings to continue to pay the mortgage when their tenants have not paid rent. And those are the people that have been very upset by the moratorium, and they have gotten their victory, apparently, at this stage from the Supreme Court. So what's going to happen?
The evictions are going to start.
Yeah.
It's going to be a monsoon.
All right, so
Are courts open to take the evictions?
Yes.
I think all the courts are open now, right?
Courts are open, and nationally there's 3.5 million people, according to the news, that are behind in their rent that are relying on the moratorium. And there's going to be a boatload of those in Michigan.
There's probably a lot
as
of
well.
people that have the money to pay the rent too, but they say, who cares?
Well, that's where you get into the equity issue.
Yeah.
Is you had unemployment, PUD unemployment. You had a lot of people that the arguments are there were a lot of people that were incentivized not to work because they were receiving more money on unemployment for not working, and were those people also not paying their rent because the landlord couldn't collect from them. So the sympathies, but you're also going to have the person that was the working in a restaurant that became unemployed because there was no, there were no restaurant jobs there are now, but
Yeah.
there weren't any restaurant jobs, and they fell behind on their rent because they didn't have enough money, and maybe they didn't qualify for unemployment because they were working for cash
We
and
got
things
all,
like that.
every issue you just said. You hit everyone there. Now the question: what the heck do you do with it?
All right, so if you're a tenant, what's going to happen?
You're going to get evicted.
Well, how does that? What does that mean? What's
So,
going to happen?
if
What's the first thing that's going to happen to you as a tenant?
You're going to get a notice to quit, 7-day notice to pay or leave the premises from
All right, so how does that notice come to you?
Or wait, and there's also a 30-day notice too. There's two different types of notices. One is for failure to pay rent,
Right.
and one is if the landlord wants to terminate the lease or the lease is up and you're a holdover.
Yeah, if you're a holdover, you're on a month-to-month lease.
So wait. So the first question
But
is
then you're current on your rent.
for the
But
last
the
Because
year,
landlord
there's
still might want to push you out
for the
because they're not
last
getting
year and
enough
a
rent.
half, is that rent due and owing? So they owe $15,000.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Yeah,
that
it's-
7-day notice is what's going to be first.
It's going to be a 7-day.
If you come up with 15 grand, they're going to let you stay there.
Well, then that's the thing. We'll get to it. But there's an opportunity to come up with that 15 grand if you're a tenant.
Right.
Or the 10 grand, or the 10 months, or the 12 months of back rent.
Let's not jump ahead. Let's just start with, all right, so they're going to get a notice to quit. Okay, the notice to quit is a 7-day notice.
Correct.
It says pay the amount that you owe or
Or leave.
leave. At the end of the 7 days, the next step is the landlord files a complaint in the district court where you live for summary proceedings to evict you.
Right. And the point of summary proceedings is that they are not regular court. They operate faster. So it's not the usual, oh, well, if it's a lawsuit, it's going to take a year to resolve. It's designed to go quickly.
Your hearing date, from the time when you're the landlord and you file that complaint, the court will give you a hearing date at that time and right in the summons that you serve. It gets served quickly on the tenant, and the hearing date is typically 14 days from the time the papers were filed. It may stretch out a little bit longer in the next month or so, depending on the volume that the court sees of these filings. We don't know that today, but we'll know that quickly. If you don't show up at that hearing date, the question is what's going to happen? We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll go through that. COVID-19 presents a fight for our personal and business financial survival. You have to make choices. Cash is critical. Do you tap your retirement, home equity line, or run up the credit cards? You need the right plan to avoid being wiped out, and you need it now. You can't rely on the government or banks. Call us. We're the experts in financial crisis. We are here for you and your business in the Great Recession, and we're here for you now. We will create a plan and get through this together. THAV GROSS will solve your problem.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
I love you too. Bye-bye. That was Jerry. Emma just said her first word.
Oh.
Jerry says hello and they'll be over soon.
Who's Jerry? Is he a friend of yours?
No. This Jerry. Our Jerry. And this is his wife and their little girl.
You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirshner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, so we're back. All right, so you're the tenant. You've gotten the 7-day notice. You didn't pay. You've now been served with the complaint for summary proceedings. The hearing date is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks come up. You choose not to show. What happens?
You're defaulted.
You get a default. Now the default at that point is the court's going to enter what's called a judgment for possession. The judgment for possession then says in 10 days,
Get the hell out.
a order of eviction can be issued.
Right.
And when the landlord then goes back to the court and says, 10 days have gone by, they have not vacated, the court then issues an order of eviction. That goes to the bailiff, who then has the power and authority, it's bad, to put you on the street.
And they literally will come into the property and they will take all of your possessions and put them out on the corner.
Just all you
That's
got to
it.
do is play back the clock and remember the financial crisis and all the pictures of the people's belongings out on the street. That's what's coming. So the question is, how do you stop that process? What do you do if you're the tenant? You're the tenant, you haven't paid rent for a year, you owe $18,000.
$12,000, $8,000.
You don't have the money. Suggestions?
You have an opportunity to get the money.
Well, there's two things. One, there's technical help to delay the process, and there's substantive help to help get the money.
So the first
Okay,
question
so
is
let's
are we
do-
going to stay in the property as long as we can, working on getting ourselves into another property?
Well, let's talk about the money first, okay? And then, all right. So, what kind of money is there to get?
So there's federal and state money available for if you file an application under the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program or similar local programs that actually will pay your landlord and your utilities for you if you qualify certain amounts of back rent.
All right. So here, if you've been paying attention to the news and you're watching it, you're constantly hearing about all of the federal money and state money that was earmarked and allocated for the tenants that has not been spent. It's something like 85% of $35 billion.
No, $43 billion is left at this point.
Yeah.
There's
So there's
just a ton of money
now,
out there.
How do everyone? Let's surmise that or think about it. I think you'll see an acceleration of the availability of that money rapidly pushed by the Biden administration, because they don't want, this is going to come back at them from the standpoint of their constituency that's going to be angry of the fact that the moratorium is lifted. But there's this money, so they will push that money out.
Okay, but
so how
wait.
do you get the money?
Well,
Who does
you're
the
right.
money go
The
to?
money's there, right? And there's an eviction notice coming to you. And the problem is the longer you wait, the further down the line you are in getting that money and that application processed, because it's still being processed by human beings, and there's a limited number of those working on this program. So if you are behind in your rent right now, even though you haven't gotten an eviction notice or a 7-day notice, or you haven't gotten a court notice of any type, you need to be working on this today. Yesterday.
Let me see if I got his message right. Is he just trying to say, you want to be the first in line? to
Yeah.
try and
Well,
get the money?
and
What's he
listen,
saying?
and go, the landlords, they don't want to kick you out. They just want their money. So if you can go get the money from the federal government,
And you
go
can
get it.
depending
How do you
on,
get the money? That's my
depending on
question.
the amount you're behind and your income, you can get anywhere from 10 to 12 months of rental assistance. On top of that, you can get 3 months prospectively going forward to help you. So
Is that right? Is that how much there's
You
there?
can get three, yes, and there's also a reapplication. You can get additional future rent too if you qualify, and there's tables, and it's based on the size of your
So
home,
how do you
the
get the
size
money?
of your family. You have to file an application.
With
Where?
It's called a CERA application, the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance. It's federal and state program, and it's managed by local.
Who do you submit the application
Every
to?
county will have an agency.
So do the landlords do this for you?
The landlords don't do it for you, but the landlords can help, and it's a two-part process because the landlords are involved in the application process and submitting paperwork as well. So it behooves the landlords to help and get involved and get the information to their tenants if they don't know about it, and it helps.
All right, so
the
we have
tenants.
these application forms.
Yes.
So is,
Yes.
would you think with the courts, when they mail out the 7-day notices, that'll be part of it, like part of the app?
No,
No.
it
haven't
No.
been so
it
far.
won't
No.
be.
No.
It might. It might become. It would be a smart thing for the courts to do, but the courts are not there to help the tenants versus the landlord.
Right.
The courts are to run the
Why
courts.
don't
So
the
here's
why
where
aren't
the
the
big-
landlords just helping the people?
Landlords are lax on taking care of this. Of
Yeah,
going.
maybe they don't know
Landlords have
about
been
it.
lax of encouraging their tenants to pursue this
If
as well.
it's the mom and pop places, they probably don't even know about it. The big conglomerates, you think they would
yeah,
know.
well, but regardless of that, think about there's a whole group of people. Like, how do you fill out this application? It's an online application. Okay?
Fill in the blank.
Do you think Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who are 83 years old, are sitting there going, "Honey, let's fill out the online application"? There's a break in that
There's a
where
difficult- we
above
just-
65, and I hate to use that number because I know some people in this room might be older than 65, but above 65, there happens to be a real loss of computer skills, and especially 75, 80, 85. They don't know how to fill out the
I will
application.
say my dad at 91 before he passed away could not even handle the iPhone. And I could never teach him any success with that. I once tried to get him on AOL back in the early days, and that didn't work. But you're right. And I think your benchmark is correct. 65 and up, there's a major drop-off in terms of their ability to handle online things. We encounter that with tax clients all the time. Right. So here's the point. We have a program. We've already developed it and put it in place, and we've been waiting for the rollout for the moratorium to go down. It's called the Eviction Defense Program, the EDP by THAV GROSS, and we've developed it and put it in play. As we get into the next segment, we will explain to you how it works. But here's the big point, which you were making. You're going to get evicted if you're a tenant, and you need to get on top of this, and you need to defend it, and you need to do everything you can to protect your interests. And the last thing that you want to do is do nothing. We'll take a break, and we'll be back. We have a program. We've already developed it and put it in place, and we've been waiting for the rollout for the moratorium to go down. It's called the Eviction Defense Program, the EDP by THAV GROSS, and we've developed it and put it in play. But here's the big point, which you were making. You're going to get evicted if you're a tenant, and you need to get on top of this, and you need to defend it, and you need to do everything you can to protect your interests. And the last thing that you want to do is do nothing.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
Time for announcements. I want to remind our viewers to listen to us to Law and Reality Live on the Praise Network, Tuesdays 10 o'clock a.m. and Saturdays 7 a.m., and on KISS 105.9, Sundays 7 o'clock a.m. You can always come in at THAV Gross for a free consultation. We're doing them via teleconference, live in the office, Zoom conferences, and phone conferences. You know, with COVID, you've got to be flexible, so we can do it any way that you want. Just call 888-235-HELP or go online and sign up. Debt issues, tax issues, estate planning issues, business issues, elder law issues with Pat, disability issues with Jeff, criminal law issues with Scott Weinberg. Also remember, you can always sign up for our free webinar, debt relief webinar online. Go to thavgross.com or lawandreality.com. You get all the answers you need in terms of solving your debt issues, solutions with bankruptcy, as well as solutions outside of bankruptcy. Also, go to our website for free reports, Resolving Tax Problems, The Real Solutions by myself and Jeff Linden, Bankruptcy, Is It Right for Me by Brian, How to Save Your Home from Foreclosure, Business Formations, Loans and Grants for Small Businesses in Detroit and Michigan, and The Retiree's Guide to Social Security from Pat Simasko. I want to thank our sponsors, THAV Gross, Simasko Law, Kirshner Law. Now back to the show.
You're all set to retire. You have your home paid off, money in the bank, and sound investments. But if you're not careful, all the things that you work so hard for can disappear. At Simasko Financial, we'll help you prevent that. We go beyond ordinary asset management. We'll safeguard everything that you have by creating a plan made specifically for you. How much can you afford to lose? Nothing. Protect the people that you love and the things that you have. Call Simasko Financial today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. COVID-19 presents a fight for our personal and business financial survival. You have to make choices. Cash is critical. Do you tap your retirement, home equity line, or run up the credit cards? You need the right plan to avoid being wiped out, and you need it now. You can't rely on the government or banks. Call us. We're the experts in financial crisis. We are here for you and your business in the Great Recession, and we're here for you now. We will create a plan and get through this together. THAV Gross will solve your problem. All right, we're back. All right, so...
Wait. You got the eviction defense program. Well, next week I'm starting the landlord aggression program.
That's probably...
That's great.
There's
We'll
got to
be
be the other side.
We'll
but
be in
it's
court
free
against each
money
other.
out there. It's go get the money. Show me the money.
You're asking...
Give it to me.
You're raising the smart point there, and the whole point is that we have to educate the landlords as well.
Yeah.
When we're in court and we're representing the tenant, what am I going to say to you as a landlord? Work with us. We'll apply and we'll get you the money, and then work with us on the balance.
You could call it the Tenant Landlord Cooperative Rental Assistance Program.
Hey, let me throw some out there right now.
It's a lot of words.
So right now we have someone that's trying to find an apartment or a house to rent. You can't find any houses to rent right now because the market's up so high. They think they're in a bubble. They're selling all of the houses. There are no rentals out there right now to get. So
which is going to be a big problem for people, because if you get evicted,
there's nowhere to go.
Where are you going to go?
Well, that's part and parcel with the fact that there is a foreclosure moratorium until January the 1st. So there is no extra housing out there to go.
Right,
so go get the money, because you're just shoving one bad tenant to the other.
Let's stay with the eviction defense program for a second. All right, so you get this eviction, you get to the hearing. Here's the point: you retain counsel.
Absolutely.
It does. You can retain us, or you need a lawyer that knows how to handle this, because you have to show up to that hearing. Now, a lot of those hearings will probably be Zoom hearings, but you show up, and at that point in time, if necessary, we ask for a jury trial. and we ask for a jury trial and we raise defenses. We say impossibility of performance. We say force majeure as a result of the COVID pandemic crisis. We say whatever we have to throw up and put onto the judge's podium to get the judge not to enter a judgment for possession at that time, because if a judgment for possession enters in 10 days from now, you're going to get an order of eviction. So we have to stall the process. And there's two ways of going about that. One is with the court and making legal arguments, and the other is rationality to the landlord.
Well,
work with us, we'll get you this federal and state money.
You get 100% of the money? You get
it doesn't go to the tenant.
Where does it go? So if it's 1,000 months rent, you get 1,000 a month from the.
It depends on the rental rate versus the number of people in your family.
The size of if a single person living in a 5-bedroom house is not charging at a market rate for a 5-bedroom house, is probably not going to get full rent. But if you have more people, it's rationally tied. So if you've got a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 people living in it, you're going to likely get full rent, back rent up to that point, and up to 3 months future rent.
And there's utility assistance on top of it?
Let's say you're the landlord, Pat, and your rent is $1,500 a month, and you're sitting there pounding the table saying, I'm owed $1,750 a month because I have the late fee I haven't gotten, and I'm owed it for 18 months, and the rental assistance can only get you $1,300 a month. Okay, but it's $1,300 a month for the last 12 months that you're owed rent. Do you want that $15,000, $16,000, $17,000?
I'm going to take
it. And work with us to stay in?
Then I'm going to kick them out.
Yes, but here's the leverage, and you're asking the exact same point. For you to get the money, we have to apply for it. You can't apply for it. We'll apply for it, but you have to work with us on a settlement agreement, giving us an opportunity to stay in the property. You won't work with us,
as long as
then
you
we're
keep
not
the
going to
rent
work
up,
with
I
you.
will.
That's right, but that's the leverage that we have to negotiate. What other solutions? What about bankruptcy?
A bankruptcy.
We've got a minute left.
I know, but if a bankruptcy is filed before the eviction judgment is issued, then that buys time. They have to seek relief from the automatic stay. You conceivably could use Chapter 13 to stretch a cure of.
So you can buy yourself at least 60 days.
60,
I mean, we got a minute. I need
60,
answers
90,
here, buddy.
maybe even a year, depending on where you are.
If you file the bankruptcy, it has to be before the judgment for possession enters.
Right. Otherwise, then you only get an additional 30 days through the bankruptcy.
So the point is, you need to get on top of this if you're the tenant. Now you have a choice. You can wait a week, 10 days, because you're going to get the notice of eviction. You're going to get the demand for possession quickly. Or you can get ahead of it and pick up the phone and call us and get on top of the eviction defense program, because you need to act, and you need to act now. It's unfortunate that many of the people that are going to face eviction have not taken steps ahead of time like we've suggested along the way in the show, but it is what it is. You need to act. You need to act now. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality. Thanks for watching.